So one of the qualities of a believer is to be generous. Stinginess is a sign of disbelief, in fact. Now you could ask why. First of all, it indicates lack of belief in Allah as the sustainer. Why are you stingy? What are you scared of? The one who's stingy, not the one who's trying to be humble, no, the one who's stingy, bakhil. Now the Prophet with himself, he was strict. But with the people, he would give and give and give, so he was generous. Some people, no, they don't give. They're stingy. Why does stinginess indicate lack of belief? Because it means you don't really believe Allah is the sustainer. Because you're scared that your money would decrease or something would happen. So then where's Allah? Their iman is weak, stingy people. Or it eventually leads to denying the religious financial obligations. People who are stingy have a hard time paying their zakat, their wajib sadaqah, their khums, their kafara, all of that. They have a difficulty paying that because they're stingy. But the generous person, it's easier for them to give their financial obligations, to relieve themselves from their financial obligations. Another aspect of stinginess that leads to kufr is that it makes a person more likely to sell his religion in return for material gain. See, if you have two people in front of you, one's really generous and one's very stingy, which one do you think you could sway more with money and maybe bribe them and buy them with money? Which one? The stingy one. The generous one, it's more difficult to sway them with money because they're generous. Yes, they do care about money, but money is not everything for them. They are generous. So the Prophet ﷺ was so generous to the point where Imam al-Sadiq ﷺ states, once the Prophet was in Al-Ji'rana. Al-Ji'rana is a village, is a place between Ta'if and Mecca. Ta'if is a city that's about 100 kilometers maybe from Mecca. These days maybe with the car it's about an hour driving distance, right? Ji'rana is between Ta'if and Mecca. He says the Prophet took money and he started to distribute it amongst the people. And the people kept asking him, he kept giving them until, have you seen sometimes when you, in poor areas, you start distributing something, suddenly this huge circles around you and people start pushing each other? That's what happened. حَتَّى أَلْجَأُوهُ إِلَى الشَّجَرَةِ Imam Sadiq ﷺ says, they kept chasing him until they cornered him against a tree. فَأَخَذَتْ بُرْدَهُ وَخَدَشَتْ ظَهْرَهُ Because they pushed him against the tree, the Prophet got injured. You know, sometimes the tree has sharp branches going. He basically got pushed against the tree. He got injured. And therefore the Prophet had to leave the city because there was a stampede around him. And the Prophet, he was wearing a garment, that upper garment fell. So he told them, give me back my garment, I have to leave the city now. Then he told them, Wallah, لو كان عندي عدد شجر تهامة. I swear by Allah, if I had money as much as there are trees around here, I would have given it to you. So that's it, my money is gone. I've given all of it to you. And you would not find me as a stingy person. Then the Prophet ﷺ left, in Dhul Qa'dah, he left Al-Ji'rana. By the way, the narrator of this incident, he says, I swear by Allah, whenever I would see that tree that the Prophet was pressed against and the Prophet got injured by that tree, whenever I pass by that tree, I see it green. For a long time after the Prophet, the tree basically was green, always very lush, even though it's a desert environment, but it was very lush. So the Prophet ﷺ was really, really generous. And that's part of the akhlaq of one who follows the Prophet ﷺ. If you have difficulty, train yourself. And the hadith says 40 days, train yourself to something, you develop that habit. 40 days, act like you're generous. Maybe from the inside it's difficult to give. You feel, you're struggling, but it's okay. Bring yourself 40 days to be generous. You will eventually become generous. This is the akhlaq of the Prophet ﷺ.